10:50, and I would like to call the regular meeting of the Lansing City Council to order and ask that the clerk please call the roll.
Okay, we go roll call with location information. Councilmember Betts.
Present, participating remotely from Lansing, Michigan.
Councilmember Dunbar.
Present, participating remotely from South Lansing.
Councilmember Garza.
I'm present and I'm participating remotely from South Lansing, Michigan.
Councilmember Hussein.
Present, participating remotely from South Lansing.
Councilmember Jackson.
Present, participating remotely from South Lansing.
Councilmember Spatafor.
Present, participating remotely from Lansing.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Present, participating remotely from South Lansing.
Councilmember Wood.
Present, participating remotely from Lansing, Michigan.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Go ahead, Brian.
Yep, we are to meditation and pledge of allegiance.
Is there anyone that members of the council, mayor's office, or the clerk wish for us to keep in our thoughts this evening as we reflect for a moment of meditation? All right, seeing none, if you all just join me quietly for a moment, please. Okay, thank you. Please join me in the recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay, we are skipping the approval of parental council proceedings. And then we're going then to comments by council members.
All right, are there any comments from council members this evening? Vice President Hussein.
Yeah, thank you so much. I wanted to announce very quickly that the Averill Woods neighborhood, Churchill Downs neighborhood, Coach Lake Commons, as well as Lansing Eaton Neighborhood Organization of Southwest Lansing, they are teaming up this Saturday to beautify the South Waverly corridor. That includes some segments of Miller Road. They have identified kind of a need over there in terms of trash cleanup, but also they've identified beautification projects, flower planting, weeding, mulching, and a number of other projects. And so again, they are teaming up this Saturday at 10 a.m. All are welcome if you want to participate in this, really this noble effort. We will be meeting at Waverly Community Plaza. This is at 3620 South Waverly Road, again at 10 a.m. There will be donuts and coffee. So light refreshments for those folks that attend. In terms of what will be provided, there will be vests, Serve Lansing t-shirts, bags. They are asking that if possible, you bring gloves, work gloves, and masks, as they have a limited amount available. But again, all are welcome, and it should be a great time. And I think we're going to see quite the improvement over there, which has been called for and is much needed. And then I wanted to take an opportunity and just thank a few of our city's workers. I had an opportunity last week to go out into the field with one of our code officers, Meredith Johnson, one of our premise inspectors, Mr. Thomas Berry, as well as one of our LPD officers, Officer Foundry, sorry. And at all times, I mean, the professionalism, the care, the consideration that they demonstrated as they worked some pretty contentious issues at times, and we're really working some quality of life issues for some of our citizens. And again, I was just so thoroughly impressed. And so I wanted to take an opportunity and thank them for the good work that they do. And then I also wanted to thank operations and maintenance. Friday spent some time, I was alerted to some pretty horrendous road conditions over in the Lansing Eaton neighborhood. And so I went over there, was able to snap some pictures and didn't get preferential treatment or anything of that nature. I just simply entered it in the Lansing Connect like we ask our citizens to do. And I was alerted to the fact that today they had several crews over there and we're patching those roads. That's, within 24 hours when you consider business days. And so I wanted to thank O&M first and foremost, and then I wanted to continue to encourage folks. We know that some 70% of our roads need complete reconstruction, and we know that there are potholes and other issues with our roads. I would encourage folks to take pictures, to submit in the Lansing Connect, because the road crew really does a pretty nice job getting out there and patching those. So again, thanks to O&M as well.
Thank you. And for those of you who are getting text messages that the stream is not up on City TV, I've let City TV know and they're working on it. So this recording will be available as well. But other comments from council members? I do want to just thank everybody for their presence Saturday, those that you were able to make it to our budget input session. 10 a.m. went pretty well. I did clip it, and I know that it's up on YouTube now for the city YouTube channel. So we've got that going for us. And it sounds like we're back on City TV. So that's it. Mr. Clerk, I don't see any council members with their hands up, so the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. For those, Chief Deputy Clerk Jackson covering for Clerk Swope tonight. And I just want to share that joining us tonight and for the summer is our City Council intern, Nicole Lynn. I know our mayor and maybe others will be happier more than usual because she's our first intern from the University of Michigan. So thank you, Nicole. Next, we are to our community event announcements. If anyone in the audience has 1 minute to speak to share details about their events.
Let me see here. We have one hand up. It looks like Loretta Stanaway is our first one, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, thank you. Loretta?
Good evening. I'm here to remind folks again that on Saturday, May 22nd at Evergreen Cemetery between 10 and 2, the Friends of Lansing's Historic.
So sorry, that was totally my fault.
Loretta, you got muted on accident. If you want to unmute yourself. We heard friends. Yep, we heard. You
Why don't
can
you
start
over again, Loretta.
Okay. On Saturday, May 22nd, from 10 to 2 at Evergreen Cemetery, the Friends of Lansing's Historic Cemeteries will be distributing 125 free seed geraniums to be used to plant on graves of loved ones in Evergreen or North or Mount Hope Cemetery. So again, from 10 to 2, Saturday, May 22nd at Evergreen Cemetery. Come and get some free flowers. Thanks.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you. So next we are to speaker registration for public comment on legislative matters. And legislative matter consists of on the 8 public hearings and any items 9 through 21 on the agenda, which are scheduled to be voted on this evening. Those wishing to make public comments will need to raise their hand within 3 minutes of the first speaker's comments. So then you can sign up starting now, and the window will close 3 minutes after the first speaker starts talking. A reminder to those how to raise your hand function. You can dial *9 if you're on a phone. You can click the raise hand icon in the chat room. You can press the Alt and the Y key at the same time on your Windows computer, or press the options in the Y key if you have an Apple computer. Next, we're on to the mayor's comments.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Clerk. I just have a few updates for folks. One, in terms of our city employees, wanted to let folks know that we are going to start allowing folks to travel. We have heard from folks who need to be attending trainings and things like that, that the travel restrictions have been difficult. We know that people are traveling now. The airlines have been able to make it safe, and people are going to hotels and things, and there are a lot of people traveling. So our employees will be allowed to travel. I'll be issuing that. If it hasn't already been issued, it'll be issued tomorrow. I know Councilman Hussein mentioned a cleanup in Southwest Lansing. We actually have cleanups all over the city. This Saturday, it's Love Lansing Week, and with Delisa Fontaine and her crack staff at our neighborhoods department are doing a great job. So we got cleanups all over the place in Lansing. It's also, I believe, neighborhoods in bloom are going to be giving out some flowers, and there'll be some flower planting. So this weekend is all about making Lansing look beautiful, and I hope everybody will get out and enjoy it. I hope the weather is nice, but either way, we'll be out doing it. And we actually have a variety of city employees that will be offered the opportunity to come out and join to help clean up our city. We're going to have some yard signs and things that say "Don't trash our city," and So it should be a great weekend, and I hope to see you all there. The last thing I wanted to raise with folks, for those watching and for council members, we get noticed by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services that they've issued a request for proposals to provide services aimed at increasing physical activity amongst residents here in Lansing, as well as Detroit, Ypsilanti, and Farragut County. It's called the Michigan Active Communities Program, and they are looking to implement policy, systems, and environmental interventions in parks and green spaces to increase access to opportunities for physical activity in communities of color and low-income communities where parks and green spaces are funded. So it'll be some grants. They assist with chronic disease, poor health outcomes, food insecurity, and physical activity. So anyone who knows anyone who wants to apply for these grants, grant applications have to be submitted electronically through the department's eGrams program by 3 p.m. on May 28th. I believe we shared that on social media. If we didn't, it's going to be. But I hope folks will share that with any of their networks. And I hope you'll all do that. I hope anybody out there who's listening can apply. I guess the award period is October 1st of this year through September 30th of next year. And they expect to award about $100,000 to up to 6 applicants with a maximum of $25,000 per applicant. So I hope everybody will apply. I know we've got a bunch of different groups. I know Councilman Wood is part of a seniors group that does some of this. So just share that information, and that's what I've got, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Clerk.
Okay, we are to public comment on legislative matters, and it's really helpful for Nicole and I, who are doing the minutes, to please say your first and last name before you start speaking. We have legislative matters consists of items 9 through 21 on the agenda, and the following public hearings. There are 4 amendments to remove certain actions as criminal misdemeanors. We have a noise special permit for North Grand Avenue on Saturdays from 8 until 5. We have the Brownfield Plan number 75, Amendment 2, which we have received 6 letters of support. Then we have also the public hearing on Public Act 425 with DeWitt Township, in which we have received 1 letter of support. The public may comment for up to 3 minutes, and you can continue to sign up until 3 minutes after the first person has started speaking. And so our first speaker is Ben Hippo Dad. And if you say your first and last name, that would be helpful.
I think they dropped off. I noticed that too. I think that person dropped off.
Okay, then it's on to Leah Fitch, followed by Loretta Stanaway.
Hello, my name
Yes,
is
we
Leah
can hear you.
Fitch. I'm a resident of the First Ward. I'm calling in favor of the resolution to repeal the ordinance against possession of drug paraphernalia. I spoke at the last meeting for comment, and I just want to reiterate some of those comments. This ordinance doesn't really protect anybody. It's punitive against our neighbors, and it makes it more difficult to do the important work of harm reduction, to make sure that we're stopping the spread of communicable diseases and protecting the health of our fellow Lansing citizens. So I urge the council to vote in favor of repealing that. Thank you.
All right, our next speaker is Loretta Stanaway, followed by Pat Gillespie.
Hello, Loretta Stanaway, and I'm only going to talk about one thing tonight, and I'm not going to beat your heads into the wall. You've heard enough, I think, about this already, but the ranked choice voting issue, I've been thinking a lot about this, and I keep coming back to one point. What is wrong with the way we do things now? The way we do things now is whoever gets the most votes wins.
Loretta?
And I don't know. Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that is not on legislative matters this evening.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Our next speaker is Pat Gillespie, followed by Nikki Finch. And then we've concluded the no one else can sign up yet. We can close this period.
Hi, this is Pat Gillespie with the Gillespie Group. I'm here to talk about Brownfield Plan number 75. It's the old Clara's train station site. It's a 113-year-old site, building that is in disrepair. We are coming to you in hopes of getting a Brownfield Plan approved so that we can redevelop it and turn it back on, bring it back to life. It has obviously many of the problems that a 113-year-old building has. No insulation, limited HVAC, poor electric system, plumbing and handicap accessibility problems. It's basically functionally obsolete. We are going to restore it. You will know it's a train station. You will know it was a train station. You will know that of its history on Michigan Avenue. When you drive by, the parking lot right now is all blacktop. The building is tucked back, and it's not very pedestrian friendly. We plan on adding pocket parks along Michigan Avenue and other outdoor seating areas up next to the building. Jessica DeBone from PM Environmental has also raised her hand to talk specifically about the numbers on the plan, but I just wanted to state that there's about $500,000 worth of the plan. We're going to borrow the money or utilize the money we saved from the 600 project, the Block 600 project across the street. We were under budget on that from what was proposed by a couple of $1 million. So actually this is a savings to what was previously approved to make this project move forward. We anticipate at least 2 users in this building. And once again, it will not be a historic monument building, but when you drive by it, we are going to honor the windows, the roof, the location, and the history of the building. That's all I have tonight. Thank you very much.
All right, next we have Eliza, followed by Emma. And again, appreciate if you have to say your first and last name before continuing with your remarks.
Hi, my name's Eliza. I'm just going to read my comment because I have a lot to say and I just want to make sure I can get it in time. I want to ask that you vote to decriminalize paraphernalia here in Lansing. There are a lot of reasons for you to do this, as you've already heard. I want to echo those and just add my own perspective. As the grown-up child of a parent with substance use disorder, my parent's been clean for 4 years, but it took him 5 years to get here after he decided he wanted and needed to stop. Recovery is not an easy process, and it doesn't move in a straight line. It often involves many attempts, and it can take place over many years. That isn't a failure or a weakness. That's a normal part of moving through a very difficult process. Loving someone through that process can make you feel really powerless. Usually the only thing that you can do is remind them that you see them, that you love them, that you believe in them, and that, and then just hope and pray that they're kept safe as they move through that journey, which is ultimately one that they make on their own, that they don't end up dead or ill or in jail before they get there. Laws didn't stop my parent from using, police didn't stop my parent from using, known risks of bodily danger, illness, or death didn't stop my parent from using. My parent stopped himself from using. Love stopped him from using. Therapy stopped him from using. Harm reduction programs that kept him alive until he was ready to stop using stopped him from using. Inpatient treatment programs that accepted his insurance stopped him from using. Service providers who treated him with compassion stopped him from using. Public transportation that made it possible for him to get to meetings or to outpatient programs when he didn't have a car stopped him from using. Friends who gave him a safe place to live while he got back up on his feet stopped him from using. We as a community have the power to create an environment where people who are struggling can be held and loved and protected and have their spirits built up in all the ways that they need and deserve. Or we can keep building an environment where people who are struggling are made to feel more ashamed, treated as problems, punished as criminals, and torn down. We can support and cheer them on as they find health and healing, or we can create policies that bury them under even more trauma. Anyone who's ever loved someone through addiction will tell you sometimes you just want to give up and say, fuck them, because it's so much easier to decide that someone is bad than it is to navigate the complexities Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Just we have council rules that prohibit that type of
Oh,
language. I
I'm so
appreciate
sorry.
your story,
Yes.
but please refrain from that type of language.
Yes. Sorry. Sometimes you just want to give up because it's easier to decide that someone is bad than it is to navigate the complexities of a very difficult disease. But our loved ones are worth it. So please don't give up. Please don't take the easy way out and absolve yourself of responsibility for doing this complex work. If you can't find compassion in your hearts to do this for all the people who are dealing with substance use disorder, then please do it for their kids, their grandbabies, their siblings, their partners, their parents, their friends, and all the people who love them and see them and believe in them. We need them healthy and healing. And first, we need them safe. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you. Next is Emma, followed by Nikki Finch.
Hi, this is Emma Zableski. I am an MD PhD student at Michigan State University, and I would like to speak in favor of you voting to decriminalize drug paraphernalia. I am a graduate of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control Public Health Associate Program, and I just wanted to speak in addition to my support for compassionate treatment of people who are addicted and not criminalizing their addiction while they go through whatever journeys they're on. I'd like to speak in favor of the public health benefits of decriminalization of drug paraphernalia. The scientific evidence of harm reduction programs is intense and resounding. There is also no evidence that having such programs increases to needle litter in the city. There is, however, evidence that criminalizing possession of drug paraphernalia does discourage people from using clean needles and other supplies, which can reduce the spread of hepatitis and HIV and other blood-borne illnesses. So I would urge you on a public health level to decriminalize drug paraphernalia and benefits of reducing the spread of hepatitis and HIV. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Our next speaker is Nikki Finch, followed by Ethan Schmidt.
Hi, my name is Nikki Finch. I live in the first ward. I am also here to speak in favor of Brian P. Jackson's proposal to decriminalize drug paraphernalia. I am really grateful for Councilmember Jackson bringing up a lot of these unnecessary ordinances that criminalize people for the complexities of their life and often the state of poverty that they may find themselves in. I am so taking away any ordinance that criminalizes poverty and homelessness and other issues, including drug use, which is a disease, a mental health condition. It is something that folks need to get treatment for. It is something that we need to make sure gets funded and that folks have healthcare for. It is not something that we need to criminalize them for and make their life even harder than it already is. I also really urge the council to go, so first of all, please vote yes on decriminalizing that today. I really also urge you to go a little bit farther and make it so that used syringes are no longer criminalized. If we took that next step, it would make it so that folks could engage in healthy and safe disposal. Because right now, once you've used a needle or a syringe, it suddenly becomes illegal because there's residue on it. And thus, there's a lot of motivation to just drop it wherever you are so that it can't be found on your person. That's why some people can go into certain parks or neighborhoods and find needles on the ground, which is really dangerous. So if you can go a little bit farther and decriminalize paraphernalia that has residue on it, it will make it a lot easier to get the safe disposal. It will make it a lot more effective and easier to carry. And then lastly, unrelated to that, I will just say that as a resident of the East Side and a homeowner there, I'm just tired of Gillespie projects. And I feel a little bit frustrated that small towns like ours that have a lot of diversity and a lot to offer keep getting these same boring developments built and often with incentives and stuff like that from the city government. And I don't have a lot to say about the Clara's thing in particular, but just in general, if we could do less of that, that'd be great. Thanks.
Okay, next we have Ethan Schmidt, followed by Jessica DeBone, and then just to let you know, our last speaker is Jonas Higbee. So anyone who signed up, it was too late after that. So we only have Steve Japinga, Jonas Higbee, our final two speakers. So we'll go Ethan, Jessica, Steve, and then Jonas.
Thank you so much for allowing me to speak today. I want to, as others have, reiterate the support for the drug paraphernalia law. And I would also like us to think bigger. I will say it's also very crucial that we don't allow someone to be prosecuted for something that could be used for something else. I think that gives us a very dangerous kind of law where something that, for example, can be used to smoke tobacco cannot be used, could be, someone could get arrested for that, even though that's entirely legal. I think that places a lot of power in the hands of people who are not meant to be the judges. And I think in general, as we do this work, let's just make sure that I want us to look at every single law where we go, well, the police officer gets to decide whether or not they actually enforce it. That every single one of those laws, I think, shouldn't be on the books anymore, because police officers were not meant to write the laws, and deciding whether or not you are going to write a law is in and of itself writing a law. If you're choosing whether or not to enforce it. So I would like us to keep thinking that. I would like to thank Council Member Jackson for your work on this. I cannot imagine how much mind-numbing work it was to go through every single law that you must have had to go through to do all this work. And I know that we spent a lot of time criticizing the council, and I think it's always important to hold people accountable, but I also think it's important to recognize the good that comes with it. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing there. And I think that I would like to request that you keep doing work like this, because it's going to be really crucial toward creating a more equitable society. So please support the bills that take these laws off the books. And thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Next is Jessica DeBone, followed by Steve Japinga, and lastly would be Jonas Higbee.
I'm sorry, she's coming in as a panelist. Just clicked the wrong thing.
Okay, no problem. We can start whenever you're ready.
Yep, we're ready.
Jessica DeBone with PM Environmental. I'm speaking towards Brownfield Plan number 75. I worked with the development team on preparation of this plan. And in addition to what Pat Gillespie already presented, I'd like to reiterate the value in this amendment to allow for the investment in the former Clara's property, so both projects can work together as a gateway into the stadium district. The property is eligible as a brownfield, both based on its adjacency to Capital City Market as well as its functional obsolescence. And because of overall project efficiencies and support from the city and LEAP in obtaining a grant from Eagle for the Capital City Market project, with Clara's added into the plan, we're still anticipating approximately 3.9 million less in eligible activity reimbursement that'll be needed for the overall projects together, which will generate a reduction of 9 years in the overall reimbursement of the plan from the previously approved 30 years. Overall, this will serve as a really great and efficient use of the tools that we have in our toolbox to help close financing gaps and make projects happen, keeping the investment going along Michigan Avenue. And we appreciate your consideration of this project. Thank you.
Okay, and then our last speaker is Jonas Higbee.
Jonas Higbee, 4th Ward. I don't want to take up too much of your time, and other speakers have already spoke much more elegantly on this than I can, but I would also like to voice support for repealing the misdemeanor on drug paraphernalia. Thank you.
Thank you. So that concludes our public comment. So we can refer to the public hearings. We have for ordinance to repeal chapter 656.05.
The Committee on Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion.
Okay, and then ordinance section 664.01.
EDI as well.
The ordinance to amend section 688.05
EDI.
and section 688.07.
Also EDI.
And then the noise special permit,
The Committee on City Operations.
Brownfield Plan 75 Amendment number 2.
DMP.
And then we have Public Act Agreement DeWitt Township.
COW. Committee of the Whole.
Okay. All right, next we are the ordinance for passage. So I will read into record all the ordinances first as requested. Number 9, an ordinance of the City of Lansing, Michigan to repeal Chapter 622, Section 622.01, or criminal misdemeanor under the General Offenses Code of the Codified Ordinances to limit drug paraphernalia. Read for the second time by its title. The ordinance was reported from the Committee on Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, and it's on the order for immediate passage. Number 10, an ordinance of the City of Lansing repeal Chapter 630, Section 630.12, a criminal misdemeanor under the General Offense Code of the Codified Ordinances to eliminate loitering in places where controlled substance or drug paraphernalia is sold, used, etc. It's read by a second time by its title. The ordinance was reported from the Committee on Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion and is on the order of immediate passage. Ordinance of the City of Lansing, Michigan to repeal Chapter 650, Section 650.05, a criminal misdemeanor under the General Offense Code of the Codified Ordinances to eliminate parental responsibility. Is read a second time by its title. The ordinance was reported from the Committee on Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion and is on the order of immediate passage. Number 12, an ordinance of the City of Lansing to repeal Chapter 664, Section 664.02, criminal misdemeanor under General Offense Code of Codified Ordinances to eliminate that no person shall disturb without lawful authority any public assembly or meeting of persons. It's read second time by its title. The ordinance was reported for the Committee on Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. It's on the order of immediate passage. 13, an ordinance of the City of Lansing to amend the Lansing Codified Ordinance to amend Chapter 280, Section 2.80.03 to provide that the Elected Officers Compensation Commission shall meet in even number of years, determine the compensation of elected officers in a manner provided in Chapter 280. Is read by the second time by its title. The ordinance was reported from the Committee of the Whole and is on the order of immediate passage.
Mr. Clerk, before we move on, item 6, I referred that to the Committee on Operations. We need to send that over to the Committee of the Whole.
I'll make a note of that. That's the noise permit?
That is, yes.
Okay.
All right, item 9, Councilmember Spitzley. Pat?
I apologize for that. I thought I was unmuted. I apologize. Councilmember Jackson, do you want to do these or do you want me to just briefly gloss over them?
It's up to you. I mean, you are the chair and I spoke enough, I'm sure. It's your choice. I can do it. I'm ready.
Yeah, these are ordinances, again, introduced by Councilmember Jackson, and this is an ordinance for passage that's to repeal Chapter 622.01, which is a criminal misdemeanor prohibiting drug paraphernalia. We've had a public comment on it. I think the city attorney has weighed in, and with that, I'll move the resolution.
All right, the resolution has been moved. Is there further discussion on this resolution? I'm sorry, on this ordinance.
I'm sorry, the ordinance, apologize.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll on item 9?
Okay. Councilmember Wood.
No.
Councilmember Betts.
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar. You're muted.
I'm so sorry, yes.
Councilmember Garza.
No.
Councilmember Hussein.
No.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor.
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-3.
The next ordinance is an ordinance to repeal chapter 630, section 630-12, which is a criminal misdemeanor prohibiting the loitering in places where controlled substances or drug paraphernalia is sold, used, etc. We've had a public comment on it. I think the city attorney has commented on it. And with that, I'll move the ordinance for repeal.
Proper motion has been made. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Jackson.
Thank you. Just a friendly reminder that the very next ordinance under it, 630.13, prohibits frequenting places where controlled substances are maintained, stored, etc. And even the one above it, 630.11, no person shall receive or admit any persons to drug houses. So those actions are more culpable than loitering. Loitering is just being around. Frequenting and admitting and all that is more active. So those would certainly still be prohibited, but merely being in a place where paraphernalia or drugs are used, sold, or had been present and all that should not be a crime. And that's all I had to add.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Jackson. No further I see no further discussion. If the clerk would please call the roll on item 10.
Councilmember Betts,
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar,
Yes.
Councilmember Garza,
No.
Councilmember Hussein,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor,
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley,
Yes.
Councilmember Wood.
No.
The motion carries.
The next item is an ordinance to repeal chapter 650, section 650.05, a criminal misdemeanor regulating parental responsibility. We had a public hearing on this. We've had the city attorney weigh in that this isn't something that they usually see in the court system. And with that, I will move the resolution to repeal section 650-05.
Right, I see a proper motion has been made. Councilmember Jackson.
Just quickly want to remind everybody that it's still illegal, regardless if this is repealed, that you cannot contribute to the delinquency of a minor, which means help them or encourage them to commit crimes. And that is a state statute that exists as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Jackson. I see Councilmember Betts.
Thank you, President Spatafor. I guess the question I have regarding this is, does this ordinance as it currently stands prohibit this kind of behavior? And the behavior I'm thinking about is something that a few constituents have reached out to me about, being parents leaving their kids to their own devices in, let's say, their front yard, and then that kid does something illegal, which is, I believe, what this law is associating with. When we repeal this, does that then make it so the parents are no longer culpable in that? And will that somehow incentivize parents to leave their kids more, I guess is my question. So I'm hoping that I can have that answered before I vote on this.
Councilmember Jackson.
Sure. So looking at the language, it's a couple paragraphs, but it's basically no parent shall encourage or allow a minor to be in the street, highway, alley, park, vacant lot in violation of 650.01, which I believe is the curfew. The things here is that it's not used by our city, for one, and for two, it's not necessary. I mean, to hold the parents responsible for some things that the kids do, yeah, it makes sense. But as far as making it a criminal misdemeanor so that we can stretch our minds to capture a possible scenario, I don't think it would cause parents to leave their kids home more, because I don't think that the parents that do that necessarily know that this is an ordinance or not. And there was no objection from police or the office of the city attorney.
Okay, thank you.
Lisa?
Thank you. I would just note, Councilmember Betts, that MCL 750.145, contributing to the delinquency of a minor, speaks specifically to neglect or like an overt act that would contribute to the minor being under the jurisdiction of a probate court. So it does contemplate the neglect question that you asked.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it.
No problem.
And Lisa, the MCL citation you gave us is adults in general with minors versus just as specific to parents, right?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. I misspoke.
Okay, just wanted, no, I'm clarifying. Okay, thank you. See no further discussion. If the clerk would please call the roll on the ordinance.
Okay, Councilmember Dunbar,
Yes.
Councilmember Garza,
No.
Councilmember Hussein,
No.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor,
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley,
Yes.
Councilmember Wood,
No.
Councilmember Betts.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-3.
Next
Final-
item is 664.02, Councilmember Spitzley.
What we have before us is an ordinance is to repeal, an ordinance to repeal chapter 664-02, a criminal misdemeanor, to eliminate that no person shall disturb without lawful authority any public assembly or meeting of persons. We did have a public hearing on this, but we did have a lot of discussion. And some of the concerns were, did it cover our city council meetings, or did it prevent folks from peacefully protesting? Jim, did you want to go into a little bit more on that?
Yes, I'd like to point out that if you do away with this ordinance by repealing it, it may be covered by another ordinance that's at public hearing stage right now, which you're also considering to repeal. And that ordinance is disturbing or is loud and boisterous conduct. And we researched the law on that issue, and that is still valid law, loud and boisterous conduct. So if you're going to repeal this one and also repeal the 66401, we'll have nothing. My recommendation is that you not repeal the disturbance of assemblies, because it is subject to being lawful authority for a disturbance. So if you repeal them both, we have nothing.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Councilmember Jackson, I see your hand up.
Yeah, a few things. So we're not trying to repeal the entire statute of loud and boisterous, and it is at the public hearing. What we were doing is keeping section A, which is you shall not disturb the peace, and taking out loud and boisterous. So it wouldn't be gone. You still have disturbing the peace, which was like the general catch-all anyway. And we also have, if a person is violating a rule, like a city council rule, and they're asked to leave and they don't leave, then they can be trespassed, which is a criminal misdemeanor, and dragged out. But the main concern for this, again, and I probably should have held the city attorney's feet to the fire on this, but the main concern is, wouldn't this prohibit First Amendment protected rights, like a person counter protesting on a sidewalk? Because that person, if they're yelling at the Klan walking by, they are disturbing their lawful permitted meeting, but they're still exercising their rights in a public place. So again, is this rise to criminal? Not necessarily. And are there other things to take care of it? Yes, disturbing the peace, trespassing, blocking a public right of way, all those things you can't do.
As with a lot of the cases, they're really dependent upon the trier of fact determining what the actual facts were. So if there are issues of counter protest, obviously that becomes part of the fact inquiry from the judge. And I know there was discussion about one of the Lansing cases, People versus Hartsuff. We researched that, and that case is still solid law on loud and boisterous. As recent as last year, they're actually still citing the Lansing case. So our recommendation is not to repeal these.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Councilmember Betts.
Thank you, President Spatafor, and thank you, Mr. Spirka, for clarifying some things for us. I guess the question that I have is, what is the legal difference between this particular ordinance and trespassing? And then what are the sort of legal definitions to public assembly and meeting of persons in this case? Thank you.
Well, trespass.
You're unmuted.
Trespass is being on someone else's property without lawful authority. I mean, that's basically it. What was the second question? I'm sorry,
I'm just interested in what public assemblies or meeting of persons are. And I guess the reason I'm asking the trespassing question is specifically with regard to council. If a person is here, could it be argued that they're in, or if they show up to council meeting and they're disturbing our meeting, can we technically prosecute that as trespassing, or is that does that fall squarely under this particular ordinance?
There's a number of issues here. Number one, as Council Member Jackson mentioned, that there is a provision in the charter, and I believe in the rules also, for a sergeant at arms for your city council meetings, and that sergeant at arms would have the authority to remove someone once that person violates, I think it's Rule 18 or one of those rules in the council rules. So that's like just an ejectment. If someone is asked to leave and refuses to leave because of some conduct, and again, it becomes fact intensive, technically that would become a trespass because you're remaining on property without lawful authority. Then an option would be this disturbing a public assembly, and that's where you get into the fact issues about what type of conduct occurred and did it actually disturb a business meeting. That's what trials are all about. That would be a misdemeanor, and that's another option for removing someone that's disturbing a public meeting or any other meeting. Does that help at all, I hope?
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Garza.
No.
Councilmember Hussein.
No.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor.
No.
Councilmember Spitzley.
No.
Councilmember Wood.
No.
Councilmember Betts.
No.
Councilmember Dunbar.
No.
The ordinance failed. 7-1.
That's my count, yeah. Okay, the next item, Councilmember Dunbar. I believe this came from the Committee on Operations, number 13. You're unmuted.
Yep, I'm unmuted. Okay. This is very simple. It's just moving the elected officers' compensation meeting schedule to even number years. I so move it.
Thank you. The resolution has been moved. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Hussein.
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor.
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Yes.
Councilmember Wood.
Yes.
Councilmember Betts.
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar.
Yes.
Councilmember Garza.
Yes.
The ordinance passed 8-0.
Thank you. That concludes the ordinances for passage.
So next we're on to the consent agenda. If we're,
Yes, is there anybody wishing to pull anything from the consent agenda before the Vice President moves it? Seeing none, Mr. Vice President, would you please motion?
Sure. We have two items on the consent agenda tonight. We have a resolution for a confirmation of appointment. This is for Terry Taylor, as a citizen member of the Police and Fire Retirement Board of Trustees. The term, if approved, would expire June 30th, 2025. We also have a resolution for a fireworks display license. This is for the Lansing Lugnuts and Melrose Pyrotechnics at Jackson Field Stadium, 505 East Michigan Avenue, on various dates. With that said, I move the consent agenda.
Very good. The resolution, the agenda, excuse me, the motion is proper. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor,
Yes.
Member Spitzley,
Yes.
Councilmember Wood,
Yes.
Councilmember Betts,
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0. On the resolution for action.
All right, first one, Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, President Spatafor. The first resolution that we have before us has to do with cabaret fees. It was suggested in order to help the entertainment venues in our community that we, for 2021, waive the fee. The fees are, the term for these are from May 1st to April 30th. And we have approximately 5 or 6, if I remember correctly, from what the clerk Jackson had said, that have already paid the cabaret fees, that we would be, if this is passed, we would be refunding. But this would not be for the next fiscal year. This will just be for this fiscal year that we're currently in. So with that, I would move the resolution and answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. The motion has been made. Are there questions on the cabaret licensor waiver? Okay, I just want to make sure everyone, yep, we're looking at the correct one. Okay, I see a question from Councilmember Betts.
Thank you, President Spatafor, and thank you, Councilmember Wood, for bringing this forward. I guess my question is, what services does the city provide in exchange for this fee? So I guess my question is, are we gonna have to make up this fee in general fund or in general fund dollars? And then my second question, I'm trying to see if this is answered in here. Is this fee reduction for the entirety of or for a year-long license or for a license of a shorter period? The reason I'm asking is because, if this is going to be for a year, maybe we should be doing some sort of reduction, but not a full refund, because we expect operations and parties and events to continue or begin late summer. So I'm just interested in your thoughts on that.
Your first question is, this will be a reduction in the revenues that are received in the general fund for the cabaret license. But one of the things that they have learned with this is there are different activities that are currently happening at entertainment venues that do now fall under the cabaret licenses that we will be able to collect in the next fiscal year that will help offset these reductions. Lastly, the services that are required for these are when they apply for their cabaret license, we still check to see whether they'll have paid their taxes, whether there's any inspections or any of those things. Those will still continue. because they'll be receiving the license. They just won't have to pay the fee. They still have to apply for the license. They just won't have to be paying that fee. So that's, and again, the licenses go for a year, but they are supposed to have been renewed starting May 1st. So.
Okay, thank you. That clarifies a lot for me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I don't see other questions on the resolution. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Hussein,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor,
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley,
Yes.
Councilmember Wood,
Yes.
Councilmember Betts,
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar,
Yes.
Councilmember Garza.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 17, Councilmember Wood.
Thank you. This has to do with some additional funds, that are part of the Stop Law Enforcement grant. The supplemental grant would allow the police department to hire one civilian that would work with a domestic violence group to do a contract analyst to support case investigations as part of the STOP grant. This would pay for a contract analyst for 40 hours for 30 months of the grant funded position. And again, what this person would do is help with tracking statuses and updates, reviewing video evidence, monitoring domestic violence, repeat offenders, and assisting in other ways with the care contingency. And with that, I would move the acceptance of this grant.
Proper motion has been made. Is there any questions? Are there any questions? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor,
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley,
Yes.
Councilmember Wood,
Yes.
Councilmember Betts,
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar,
Yes.
Member Garza,
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Next item is item 18 under grant acceptance. Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, President Spatafor. This is the last grant acceptance that we have before us. Many of you are familiar with the hazard mitigation grant. This is the grant that we receive that allows us to purchase properties within the flood FEMA area that has been determined through a mapping process in the city. We have, over the period of time that we received this funding, we have completed the acquisition of 33 properties that have been torn down. Many people might know the area in the first ward where you've got the garden projects. This is that particular area. And this phase, what they would be looking at is purchasing 7 houses that are currently unoccupied. And they have 2 alternate properties if the property owners chose not to sell. And then these properties would be demolished. And again, this property would be used currently for garden projects. One of the things that Mr. Kulhanick did talk about was the fact that we were going to need to look at a long-term planning opportunity to plan for how we're going to utilize this land in the future. But right now it's, again, the acceptance of the grant to allow us to move forward and purchase these properties. So with that, I would move the grant acceptance and answer any questions.
Sure. Motion has been properly made. Are there any discussion questions to be asked? No? All right, if the clerk would please call the roll.
Councilmember Spatafore,
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley,
Yes.
Councilmember Wood,
Yes.
Councilmember Betts,
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar,
Yes.
Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson. Motion carries.
Oh, Councilmember, Mr. Clerk, did you get Councilmember Jackson's vote?
I think so.
Okay, I didn't hear it, so I just want to make sure that we didn't skip
Did I
over.
jump too quick?
Yeah, Brian, I assume it was a yes, but I want to make sure on the record.
We had the telepathic.
Oh, yeah, it's as long as someone named Brian Jackson voted yes, we're good.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
All right, the next item is Councilmember Spitzley, a resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. So what we have before us is a resolution in support of House Bill 4275 that's been introduced by Representative Sarah Anthony, and it is the Crown Act, creating a respectable and open workplace for natural hair. You've probably read in the newspaper the latest thing about the young lady, the biracial young lady in Mount Pleasant who had her curly locks cut by her teacher, her librarian teacher. The Crown Act began in California in July 2019. And it's now been adopted in at least 7 states, and legislation is under consideration in more than 20 other states, as well as the United States Congress. So Representative Sarah Anthony introduced 4275 in February 2021 to amend the Michigan's Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act to include the definition of race as inclusive of traits historically associated with race, including hair texture and protective hairstyles. And so, in light of the news report in Mount Pleasant and the fact that I seem to change my hairstyle every other year, I wanted to introduce a resolution in support of Representative Sarah Anthony's Crown Act. And with that, I will move the resolution.
Thank you. The motion has been made for the resolution. I do see Rep. Sarah Anthony in the audience. Just want to welcome her here and say thanks for joining us tonight, Representative. And then seeing no further discussion from the group, I will ask for a roll call vote.
Mr. Council President, and I don't know if the rep wants to say anything. I don't know if that's appropriate. I'm just kind of throwing that out, but.
Listen, I learned a long time ago to do whatever Sarah Anthony tells me. So I'm going to ask if she wants to say anything.
Good afternoon. What a long council meeting you all have had.
This is a short one, Representative.
Hey, I won't belabor the hour. I just want to say thank you to all of you for even considering this resolution. As you know, Ingham County was the first in the state to pass the Crown Act, and counties and cities across the state have followed suit. So, it would be amazing and a gesture to really once again reaffirm, our city's commitment to inclusion and diversity, and knowing that we're just going to be living our values. So I just appreciate the leadership. Thank you for just, being the world-class city and the inclusive city that I know we strive to be and that I know that we are. So thank you all for your leadership. Super proud.
Thank you, Representative. See, I actually said thank you, Representative, at a council meeting, and it was appropriate that time. So I will ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Yes.
Councilmember Wood.
Yes.
Councilmember Betts.
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar.
Yes.
Councilmember Garza.
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein.
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafore.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0.
Thank you very much. Next item, Councilmember Dunbar, relates to the Wet Weather Control Program. Item number 20.
Thank you very much. This is Siphon 12 and Trunk Sewer Replacement Project. Basically what this is doing is creating a diversionary system that is going to route stormwater rather than dumping it in the river when there's an overflow. It's going to route it underneath the river and up next to Rio Town to the plant that, what is the name of that? I'm looking for the name of it.
Maps are coming, Councilmember Dunbar.
Pardon me?
The maps are coming.
The maps are coming, okay. So anyway, yeah, it basically affects the north end of Colonial Village, which would be the Sagamore Hill, Moores River Drive area, and also in Moores Park, where basically this is one of the last areas where, here they come, there we are. All right, so these green lines that are on here are where we've got existing storm sewer, and this pink line that's going up the center. And if we have anybody here from public service that wants to address this, I'm more than willing to let them take over as well. But this is going to take it up to the nearest pump station so that we do not have sewage overflow in the river, which is the standard practice right now. If the storm comes on too hard and the drains can't handle it, it gets the doors open and it goes into the river. And so this is to create the capacity in a parallel line that's going to run underneath the river and take the stuff up to the pump station. The cost for this over time is basically 88 cents a month. That folks are gonna see on their sewer bill. And yeah, I think I got it all.
I think that was pretty inclusive, and we're not gonna be able to read that, Sherry, so you can just go ahead and close that out.
Is anyone
okay.
here from public service that wanted to hit on that? Did I miss anything?
I was in the meeting. I think you pretty much covered it. Adam, you were there too. Anything different from your recollection?
No, I think, just to be clear, if I understand this correctly, what we're actually doing is looking at approving an amendment to our current wet weather plan, because we're looking to seek revolving fund money from the state. And in order to do that, we have to actually amend this plan. So, because when we first went to that meeting, that's what I wasn't certain about, but that's my understanding.
That's correct. Yes, the resolution speaks to the amendment to our project plan.
Yeah, because we can't get the funds to do this with an amendment to the plan.
Okay, so I believe the resolution has been moved properly by Councilmember Dunbar. And I would see no further discussion, so I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Member Wood.
Yes.
Councilmember Betts.
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar.
Yes.
Councilmember Garza.
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein.
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor.
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0.
Thank you. Next item, again from City on Operations, Councilmember Dunbar, the claim appeal number 1828.
Yes. All right. So this is an appeal from Mohammed Salman Rice. He did come to the meeting. I don't believe he was here commenting this evening. This was a trash claim. It's an argument that we normally hear, that he's the landlord and the trash was approved by a tenant, and he felt like it should be charged to the tenant, but that is an issue between him and the tenant. He will have to take them to small claims to deal with that, because the way that our code works, it runs with the taxpayer and landowner. So we upheld the fee for $2,481.
Thank you. Would you like to move the resolution?
I do move the resolution.
Thank you. Motion, there's proper motion before us. Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will please call the roll.
Councilmember Betts.
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar.
Yes.
Councilmember Garza.
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein.
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
Member Spatafor.
Yes.
Member Spitzley.
Yes.
Councilmember Wood.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0. So then we're on the speaker registration for public comment on city government related matters. Those wishing to make comment will need to raise their hand. They can start doing that now. And they can continue to raise their hand up to 3 minutes after the first speaker begins speaking. Again, to raise your hand function, you can dial *9 on a phone. You can click the raise hand icon in the chat room. You can press the Alt and the Y key at the same time for a Windows computer. If you have an Apple computer, you would push the Options and the Y key. So next we are to reports of city officer boards and commissions, petitions, and other city-related matters.
Sure. Mr. Vice President.
Sorry, I make a motion that all items be considered as read in full and if the appropriate referrals be made by you.
As proper motion, Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
I just want to say the clerk's office is going to pull 23. There was an error in that report, so we're going to reissue it the following. We'll refer it next week.
Very good. One last thing to look at next week.
Yep. Capital Area District Library 2020 Annual Report.
Place on file.
Vacancy factor report of open positions for fiscal year 2020-2021.
In the committee on the whole.
Liquor license approval.
Miss Madam Councilmember.
Carol, that's fine.
Carol.
Adam made the motion, but I don't think we voted.
Oh yeah, we didn't vote.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
Not a problem.
Suppose we need to do that, Mr. Clerk. If you could please call the roll.
Moving things along. Councilmember Garza.
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein.
Yes.
Member Jackson.
Yes.
Councilmember Spatafor.
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Yes.
Member Wood.
Yes.
Councilmember Betts.
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0.
All right. Well, I gave some spoilers, but the first one's going to be placed on file.
And second one, vacancy factor report of open positions for fiscal year 2020-2021.
The committee of the whole.
Liquor license approval, Salt Brewing Company.
City operations.
And then items from the mayor, order to make safe or demolish the owner's property located at 2109 Worden.
Committee on Public Safety.
Show cause hearing for make safe and demolish orders for 2109 Worden.
Public Safety.
Make safe or demolish orders to the owners of property located at 1412 West Ionia Street.
Public Safety.
And set the show cause hearing for the 1412 West Ionia Street.
Public Safety.
Ordinance to amend Chapter 1610 Uniform Fire Code Standards.
Public Safety.
And then we set the hearing for the ordinance to amend Chapter 1610 the Uniform Fire Code and Uniform Fire Code Standards.
Public Safety.
We have a grant acceptance community energy management grant for the purpose of assessment for installation of solar power of 4 Lansing community centers.
Ways and Means.
We have a worker comp settlement claim 206287601126.
Committee on Ways and Means.
We have appointment of Maureen Saxon as an at-large member of the Economic Development Corporation Tax Increment Finance for term to expire June 30th, 2027.
The Committee on Ways and Means.
For communications, petition, communication support of ranked choice voting for city elections.
Place on file.
And we have communication from Kathy Miles in opposition of ranked choice voting.
Place on file. And I'm sorry, Mr. Clerk, item 34, that actually needs to go to the Committee on Development and Planning.
34 is to DMP. Got it.
Okay.
We have, next would be remarks by council members.
Any council members who wish to make remarks this evening? All right. No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Next to remarks by the mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
I do have a few quick things that I forgot to mention. I want to welcome Ben Scholdener as our new superintendent for the Lansing School District. I got to meet him, very impressive gentleman. I hope he has a chance to meet with you all in your intergovernmental committee. I want to congratulate Governor Whitmer, Congresswoman Slotkin, and Luciana Solis. They were honored as Women United Lighting the Path by the Capital Area United Works. So congratulations to all three of them. And I'd like to remind everybody that the Lugnuts are once again playing. So I was able to get to opening day. The Lugnuts won, and it's cool to see everything happening at the stadium. It's properly socially distanced. They have their plan in place, and it was a great evening, even if it was a little bit chilly. So go Nuts, and I hope everybody will once again visit our stadium and watch our new High A Oakland A's affiliate, Lansing Lugnuts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just I did a note for you all. We are going to invite the superintendent into the committee of the whole once he gets here and settled. I know he's kind of playing both roles right now. So once he's settled in, we'll have him here to meet with the committee of the whole. Okay, Mr. Clerk, we are on to whatever you want to call next.
The public comment on city government government related matters. You have 3 minutes to speak on city related matters. Those wishing to make comment will need to raise their hand virtually by the end of first speaker's comments or 3 minutes. You can still sign up now. And our first speaker is Daniel. And please say your last name for the record if you could, your first and last name before speaking.
Before we start the clock, Sherry, I just want to remind everybody of council rules on decorum. Please refrain from using profanity and that type of language. We'll mute you and disable your speaking abilities for the meeting. Go ahead, Sherry. Daniel, the floor is yours.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Hello, this is Daniel Arnold, Facebook Guy Smiley, a happy resident of downtown district. It is time to get dirty and see how we can continually improve our beautiful city of Lansing. I've enjoyed seeing more murals go up than graffiti, the establishment of Mayor Shore's visionary grocery store, the coexistence of those who do not support the police and those sworn to protect the citizens. It has been said repeatedly in so many words that the end of free speech is the quickest route to tyranny. Michigan Police, State Property Security, Sergeant at Arms, and LPD have gone out of their way to keep safety in the midst of liberty. We had an uprising after the George Floyd incident in Minneapolis, but I believe that public safety did a tremendous job of minimizing the situation. We saw proud citizens cleaning up the city the next day with art and dignity. What do I want from this epic city? I want even more of a voice. Mayor Shore, you have shown up at some key events and did your best to support our men and women in blue. Yet I have been denied to meet with you for even a phone appointment. I've filled out the online application and heard nothing back. Yes, you are busy, but a 10 to 15 minute talk should not be too much for you. I would love to check in once a month to share my input on the mental health perspective of many consumers in our diverse community. How can we give back? What ways can we work together to volunteer through the city? How can we better build relations with public safety and vulnerable populations? I see the gorgeous Rotary Park looking at the river and walk past murals. It seems we are making headway. But I want more opportunities for more people like me to participate. At one point, I believe you said, Mayor Shore, that we have a voice amongst committees at community mental health. I've served on 2 mental health councils for over 5 years and my term is ending. I speak at CMH Board of Directors meetings, Tri-County CIT committees, and police commissioner meetings. I'm a loud, booming voice of the people. Let me meet on the phone monthly with you, Mayor Shore, for 10 to 15 minutes. I want to thank Councilmember Brian T. Jackson for regularly putting himself out there, being a great supportive listener and friend. Social media has become a ministry for me in some regards, as well as my daily walk in the park where I encounter Councilmember Jackson and his family. Great things ahead for Lansing because of all of us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Our next speaker is Ethan Schmidt. And then our last speaker is Hippo Dad.
Thank you again for letting me speak today. I just want to really continue to push for us to make a more equitable justice system and a more equitable legal system. I think something that was hard to watch today for me personally was that no matter how uncontroversial the repeals of certain laws were, even when the head of police supported it just fine, there were council people who seemed to knee-jerk vote against it. And I'm not sure what the cause is to so strongly oppose any sort of repeal of laws that disproportionately hurt a large section of our population. But I really encourage people to think, what are the biases that all of us have? What is happening to make it so that any law cannot be repealed, even if every member of the police support it? And what laws do we need to repeal even if the police support that particular law? I think it's something that I would really like to see future council meetings where people really take into consideration the effects that these votes have, and I'm not sure what the reasoning is behind a lot of these no votes, but to me it seems like a pretty easy unanimous decision for a lot of them. And I would love to see, and I'm also happy to hear more reasoning behind it, but I've been to all of these meetings and I didn't hear in the meetings, the public meetings at least, the reasoning behind these no votes. It seemed very uncontroversial. So I would actually like to go further, and I'd really encourage council to continue to challenge themselves to think about how they can go further. And so the votes aren't 5-3 on a razor's edge here. Thank you again for letting me speak. And thank you again, Councilmember Jackson, for continuing to push this hard.
Okay, thank you. And so our last speaker, if you could say your first and last name for the record, appreciate it, is Hippo Dad.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't know why it come up Hippo Dad, but this is Tamara Aaron. As y'all know, I went through the rehab program in 2018 where my home was destroyed. There are many mistakes directly and indirectly made by both the city and the contractors, among other issues. I want to know if the following is accepted and need the city council members and others to hear and address this matter. When someone reaches out to the city for help, the solution the city and city attorney deems as acceptable help, which is offering a non-disclosure agreement with penalties and provisions to where a citizen would have to agree not to talk to their elected officials, entities, agencies, including HUD. And if they do talk to them, they could be sued by the city if they go against these provisions. Is this the way the city addresses citizens who have reached out to them for help, to where they are silenced from speaking out, or they can be sued by the city that they put their trust into and who they have reached out to many times? What it comes down to is a non-disclosure agreement will prevent someone from getting the help that is so needed when they are prevented from talking to others that may be able to help them getting into a safe and healthy housing. I do not feel this is acceptable, that where I have to be silenced and they think this is going to help me, when in fact it's going to cause more harm. And I don't think anybody should have to go through this when they reach out for help, is to be silenced by matters that have happened within the city and it was refused to be addressed from day one, and where the person was ostracized when they did reach out for help. This is putting emotional, physical strain that is affecting my health, and I imagine others who have been through this. I have problems where now my hands turn purple while I'm in my house and I cannot breathe. I can't walk more than 10 feet, but if I leave the home, I'm okay. And I'm living with other things that where I can't even describe, but it is critical. It is a health hazard. And this city, who is behind this program, would not let me know who the contractor was to research to see if his information was accurate or what his bonding was or who was coming to my home to do the work. We need changes within this policy the city has to protect citizens that are low income. My home is going to cost over $130,000 to $180,000 to fix by these mistakes that I have written rebuttals against and everything else and reached out to everybody. And I need my representatives. I need HUD. I need agencies. I need anyone to help me. Thank you.
That concludes our speakers.
Thank you very much. That does conclude the business before the Lansing City Council. Before I adjourn, I just want to let you all know that the Committee of the Whole next week will meet at 5 due to our schedule. We have quite a few things to get done. So please note that we will meet at 5 o'clock for the committee of the whole next week. Being no further business for the committee, we are adjourned.